Hello everybody and welcome to the HTML All Things Podcast, episode 92, Proposing Projects to Your Team. I'm your host, Matt Lawrence, and I'm joined again by my co-host, Mike Karan. If you've been enjoying the podcast so far and you want to support us, there's a couple of ways that you could do that. You can review us on that Apple Podcast or on the platform that you're listening to this on. You can also check us out on Patreon. There's only a couple of tiers, but the $3 tier will give you a shout out in the podcast, and we will share a link to your website in our show notes. And probably the most important one is just to tell your friends that we're here and ready to be listened to, share us, and get us out there. And if you or your friends are ready to go a step further, you can come check out our Discord server. Got a bunch of people talking in there, literally hundreds of people talking in there, chatting about different programming languages, web development, movies, some off-topic stuff, whatever. It's all there, so come and check us out, hang out, and etc. Link to that is in our show notes, of course. But of course, as we always do, Weekly Pain Point. Mike, please take it away.
All right. So Weekly Pain Point this week is constant reprioritization. I don't know if anyone has this problem, but when you're working on multiple projects with a team or multiple projects just by yourself, I find it's constantly, like every day is a completely different priority. And I can never plan for a whole week of work. That's my biggest problem with this, is that when I sit down and plan my week, at the end of the week, it always looks different because every day is like, okay, well, we're putting this on the back burner. This is being reprioritized, et cetera, et cetera. There's nothing wrong with that. And like, I understand that's normal life cycle stuff with businesses. It's just makes it a little bit more difficult to plan far in advance. So what I've taken to do is literally plan it day by day. I plan one day ahead and that's it. Because so far I haven't been able to get into a nice enough rhythm with one project to be able to work, to be able to plan ahead more than a day, which is, I think, maybe a problem, but I've been managing somehow. That's about it for me. What about you, Matt?
So my weekly pain point this week is actually false urgency. I mentioned this on the show before and explained what it is. Basically, just people making things seem like whatever it is they need is extremely urgent. And then when you do it or finally answer them with a question like, hey, I need your login details or something, they don't get back to you for a very long time. Very long time as in terms of the urgency scale. So it means like maybe they get back to you at the end of the day or several days or like a week later. But I'm just having some weird problems with a couple of projects where get a phone call, everything's all like, oh my God, like what do we do? Or get a text message like, oh my God, what do we do? Sort of urgency, or at least it seems that way. And then when you finally talk to the person or, trying to get into the weeds, it becomes like, well, we're not that concerned about this. We're not that worried. And, that will disrupt your workday, if anything. So kind of having some trouble with that due to some project things, but, working through it because it's a part of this job, unfortunately. So, but this episode is going to be a little bit different. So I don't actually have half the show notes intentionally, and Mike also doesn't have half the show notes. So what we've done here is we've each come up with a project and kind of listed out some of our ideas in different little sections. So, for example, I'm going to be showing off an app with its MVP and its wish list and those type of things. And what this episode is these are just fake apps. We're not saying we're going to make these apps in any way, but these are just app ideas that we had, and we're going to sort of propose them to each other. Now, I want to preface this by saying that this isn't a formal thing that you would do to an investor. I didn't go out and do graphs. I didn't do market research. I didn't do anything. This is pure, like, as if I was sitting on the couch one day, thought up the idea, and then decided, hey, I'll jot this down so I don't forget. It gets to the point where there's enough info there and enough of an idea there where I then bounce the idea off of Mike. So think of it more of like I'm proposing it to Mike, certainly, but it's more like I'm bouncing it off of him. He'll come back with feedback and stuff, which you'll see in this episode, or hear in this episode, I suppose. And then kind of go from there. So in my case, in my app, which Mike has no idea, he's never seen it, although I think I may have talked to him about this app idea in the past, but I wrote up several different sections on a movie collection manager. So it is going to have an MVP, there's a brief description, an MVP, a wish list, and then being a UX sort of guy, I got some use cases. And it's about a page and a half-ish in point form. So kind of got some stuff to go through, and feel free to jump in, Mike, wherever, and I'm sure you'll do the same thing. And I believe that Mike, actually, on a side note as well, is yours is a little more technical. Yours has more use case stuff. So this is sort of very indicative of like our different jobs sort of thing, and it's kind of how ideas would come to fruition. Like I know that if Mike comes to me with an idea, he'll bring up and be like, hey, we should use this new language to build this thing. Whereas I'm just thinking like, hey, are there customers for this? What's the use cases? That type of thing. So even our separate documents, I only know his headings. I don't even know what his idea is. But even his separate headings are going to be indicative of our different jobs. So I'm just calling this really generic movie collection manager. And the description is that it's just a web app that allows a user to track their movie collection, including physical and digital copies of the movies that they possess. And the MVP includes like a variety of features. So these are just the features that are listed out in point form. So obviously, a user would be able to add movies to their collection, and they'd be able to select what medium. So something like Blu-ray, DVD, VHS, even some digital ones. So like Google Play Movies, the Microsoft Store, which is, you can purchase or rent movies on Xbox or on the Windows 10 or on Windows 10 on PC. So those type of things. Users can select multiple versions. So for example, if someone had the Blu-ray and the DVD, the user can say like, hey, I have, Pulp Fiction on Blu-ray and DVD. They can somehow select that. Next point here is going to be that you're allowed to add variants to the movie. So this is actually pretty critical in terms of a movie collection app. So variants is in whether there's a collector's edition, whether it was the director's cut, the unrated cut, because the actual footage will change. The biggest one that I can think of that changes the movie a lot is the extended versions of The Lord of the Rings, because they add like quite a bit of footage to the actual Lord of the Rings. I've never actually seen the extended editions myself, but I know that they're quite lengthy. So there's that. Also, movies will be selectable from a list. So the app will have some sort of database, API or something. Will have some sort of database of movies and TV shows alongside their related meta, which includes variants and release date and those type of things. Those kind of basic meta items. And basically what that is, and I'm going to get into this a little more in the use cases, but what this means is that someone can go in and say they click on, say they just bought, I'm going to use Pulp Fiction a lot. So someone goes to like wherever, buys a copy, a Blu-ray copy of Pulp Fiction. They come back, they go to their app and they say like, hey, I bought Pulp Fiction. They click on, add, and they click on they click add, they click on like the search bar or whatever, they type in Pulp Fiction, then Pulp Fiction shows up. They click that, they have the Blu-ray, and then they click add. Now, the app itself had Pulp Fiction as an entry already in itself. Again, whether it's an API or whatever, we're not getting into the weeds on that today. And that will pull in the release date, the release versions, whether it was like a director's cut, all the rest of it, like, what type of editions were available, those type of things. Optionally, to add a date purchased. So I know that some people will absolutely need this, because let's say they bought it at, like, let's say they bought the movie like 10 years ago, and they know that like they just don't know where that box of movies from 10 years ago is. So this purchase, as long as they kept up with this app, by seeing their purchase date, they're able to easily filter themselves out. That's basically the use case there. There's basically able to filter out their own collection by their own knowledge. Also exporting. So export the list to, something like a CSV or something that they can easily throw into an Excel sheet if they needed to, just give this to a friend or something like that. It's just something easily exportable, whatever format that is. That'll end it for the MVP. I'll go on to the wish list unless Mike has any other questions or anything like that.
No, I'll chime in at the end.
Okay, cool. Okay, so a wish list then. So a wish list is a little more, because the wish list kind of changes what it is. So I'll kind of go through it, and then I'll explain it in the last part with the use cases. So on the wish list, you have multiple custom lists that users could make themselves. So for example, my collection, mom's collection, whatever. Like if you're a person that is quickly going through all of the DVDs and the Blu-rays in the family, and you want to know like this one's at your mom's house, this one's at your dad's house, this one's at whoever's house, Bill's house, whoever. Just custom lists that you're able to quickly make up yourself. Something specific, or a specific list functionality, which would be a watch list, a watch status, and movies to buy. So I don't know whether this would, again, high level, but I don't know whether this would be one type of list or just functionality in custom lists. But basically, what it would say, has the user watched X movie in their collection? And they'd be able to, when they're adding the movie, say, yes, I've watched this, or, no, I haven't watched it. And then the app would be like, okay, these are the movies you haven't watched. So just something else that they could potentially filter by. The watch list could even be movies that the user wishes to add to their collection. So they could add almost like a wish list, if you will. So they don't own the Blu-ray, the DVD, or the Google Play movies. They don't own any of those versions, but they want to buy them so they can add it to their wish list. A barcode scanner as well, that's a big one. So users could pick up their DVD cases, for example, and just quickly, beep, 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 literally just keep beeping them into the app, scanning the QR codes or the barcodes on the back of the cases. That would make things a lot easier, especially if they have a lot of physical mediums. Also, streaming service integration. So users can add the streaming services they own. So, it'd be something simple like, do you have Netflix? Yes. Do you have Disney Plus? Yes. And then assuming there's an API or something out there that has whether this movie is available on Disney Plus or Netflix or whatever, the app would actually show that. So my use case for this would be, and I know I'm bringing up use cases throughout this whole thing, but I'll get into the weeds of it in the next segment. But one of the things I was thinking of is it's like if you let's say you I'm just going to use Pulp Fiction again. I'll use this constantly. So let's say you buy Pulp Fiction on Blu-ray, you haven't actually watched it, so you tell the app, I haven't watched this, and then because you've added it to your collection, the app recognizes, hey, this is available on Netflix. At some point, maybe you're out doing something, you're out staying at a friend's house or something like that, and you're like, man, I really want to watch a movie. You could go into your collection list, see which ones that you've purchased, so clearly you want to watch them, but you haven't watched them yet. Pulp Fiction shows up and it says, hey, this is available on Netflix. Then you can, click into Netflix and, that's it. So there's that use case there. Also, another one is store tracking. So store tracking is to view pricing on movies and movies from digital services, and other online stores like Amazon that ship you the physical Blu-ray or whatever. So this would be used for something like notifications from a user's purchase list, or different editions of a user's movies that appear on sale. So, for example, if someone put in that they only have the VHS version of The Lord of the Rings, the first one, maybe the Blu-ray goes on sale on Amazon, and depending on the user settings, they might get a push notification that's like, hey, you can upgrade your version from the VHS to the Blu-ray for, $10 or whatever it is on sale for. So that's sort of that part there. Also Plex tracking. So I'm obviously big into Plex. So this would track if the user has added a particular movie into their collection in Plex. So whether the person has gone in and ripped the Blu-ray or whatever it is and then thrown it into their Plex. Also, it'll track which movies that they own in a physical medium, so like a DVD or a Blu-ray, and whether or not that physical medium has been Plexed yet. And so there could be like a list functionality there where it's like, hey, you set it in the app that you want all Blu-rays to be on your Plex. You added 10 movies and only 5 of them are in your Plex. And it sets aside a little list for you like, hey, these are the 2 Plex items kind of thing. Also, this could be tied into the store tracking as well. So you could have something like if, you want to add something to your Plex, like this could be tied in with the wish list. Again, all this is high level, but if you wanted to add something to your Plex, you add that to your 2 Plex list and you don't physically own it. Maybe it goes on sale on Amazon. And so the app says, hey, this is only $10. Maybe you want to pick it up type of thing. And then this is a big one, but another wish list item would be a mobile app and sync. So the app would be available, ideally on smart devices as apps. Now, whether that's native apps or whatever works really at the end of the day. And then browsers, of course, the web app, which I would hope would be responsive. And then, of course, data. So data is a big one, especially in a collections app. So data would need to sync between a user account, via a user account rather. So that maybe they make an account on the app and it syncs. Or if you don't want to deal with that type of thing, maybe some other data syncing thing like Google Drive or something where you can quickly just plug it in and it'll pull it from some sort of XML file or JSON file or something like that that's synced between the 2 Google Drives. So that kind of concludes it for the wish list of items. And the next one is going to be the use cases. So I have 2 subcategories under the use cases. The one is MVP only. So assuming that it's only the MVP and none of those extra features that I just said, really brief, obviously, because the MVP was brief because it's the MVP. Users with large collections of movies, particularly collections that span multiple mediums, can use this app to keep track of what they purchased. So the very first thing that I was thinking of is, if you're a big movie buff, one of the things that a lot of movie buffs will do, especially if they're either trying to upgrade their DVDs to Blu-rays or if they're just getting into it, because they're just getting into it, they don't really have a backlog. Or rather, they have a backlog. They're not on the cutting edge of movie releases. And so a great thing to do is to go to your local movie store and go and hit up that bargain bin. The bargain bin gets refreshed every X, inventory cycles or whatever happens in that store. And so you're grabbing a bunch of movies. So instead of paying, $20, $30+ Canadian for Blu-rays that are brand new or newish, you're going in and you're getting Blu-rays for $7.99, $5.99, DVDs for $4, something like that. Again, all these are Canadian prices, approximately prices. So that's sort of where I was thinking is, if you're buying things rapid fire and you haven't, put them into you haven't watch them, you might not remember that you bought them. Or if you're a person that has tons and tons and tons of movies and you want to hit up that bargain bin and you're like, man, do I have this? You can quickly check in the app. So that's my number one sort of use case for this. The second sub whatever you want to call subcategory under use cases is the MVP plus the wish list. So this is what I meant by the wish list changes the app. So instead of it just being something that you track it in, what I consider this whole thing is it becomes, with the wish list, a full video entertainment management tool. So this allows you to search for movies and TV shows and whether they're in your collection already, just like the MVP does. But you can also just straight up see whether they're available on a streaming service. And because the streaming service functionality is there, you could very easily add a movie that you don't own to your watch list, and then if it gets added to Netflix or if it gets added to Disney Plus or wherever the heck you think it's going to be added to, Amazon Prime Video, whatever it is, if you think it's going to be added to one of these services, that app can alert you to it. That functionality is there, where it says hey, this is now on Netflix, and then you're ready to go that way. Also, you can compare prices of movies that users would wish to purchase, and you'd be able to see, because it's plugged into the quote unquote digital physical stores like Amazon, where they ship you a physical product, or something that's totally digital where you watch the movie on Google Play Movies or on YouTube or whatever it is, or wherever you buy them. Those all have different prices. Those all have different things, rentals or all that too. So this app would allow you to easily, let's say, add, you really want to watch the Joker or whatever, the latest Joker movie, and you don't know, should I rent it? Should I buy it? What's the normal price? Whatever. You add it to your collection as I haven't watched this, I don't own it. You'd be able to see, it's this much on Google Play, it's this much on Amazon, or it's available on Amazon Prime, or it's available here, or it's available here, whatever the situation is. You'd be able to see the prices, whether you can just watch it already, whether it's available on Amazon Prime maybe, but maybe you don't have that, so you're like, 3 or 4 of my movies are on Amazon Prime, I should probably just get Prime because it's going to save me some money. So this app really becomes sort of like your movie and TV show central. This is sort of my thought with the wish list. This is especially true because of the sync functionality, which is extremely crucial. And to be fair, the actual syncing is probably should be in the MVP. That's the one I was on the fence, so I threw it at the end of the wish list because I wasn't really sure, because my main use case for the MVP is you're at the store. So unless you're going to be adding all of this movie collection stuff just on your phone, which many would, so it might still work, but just adding it all on your phone to a web app, you probably want that sync, because you might be going through everything and cataloging all your movies on your desktop or on your laptop, and then, or even a tablet, whatever, or scanning things, and then you might go to the store and you're not going to be bringing your whole laptop and everything with you. You're just going to have your phone in your pocket. So it'd be nice to have that collection data. So you're like, hey, did I buy this before? And yes or no. Yes, you have it. No, you don't.
Okay. So that's the wrap up for the whole.
That's
the
right? Movie. That's my movie collection manager. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, like you said, we have talked about this before, but yeah, you've definitely expanded on the thought process. You've probably been thinking about it quite a bit. The big thing with you is that you're a big movie buff.
Oh yeah.
And you, more than a movie buff, I think you're more of a collector of movies, whether it be physical or digital at this point. Because I think Plex kind of converted you into being okay with digital as well, because it's still kind of a physical. It adds that element to it, the collection element to it, which is interesting. And you're obviously not the only one. That's what I'm trying to say. Now, for me, I'm not a collector. I do like movies, but I'm not a collector. So it's tough for me to wrap my head around investing a lot of time into managing a collection. But then again, I have seen a lot of people, you know, whether it's like a collection of cards, whether it's a collection of whatever, what I usually see as a solution to something like this, when a solution doesn't exist, is like someone opens up an Excel sheet, puts all the fields that they want in there, and then just manages it through there. So that's obviously not the most optimal solution.
And I do have that.
That's what I figured.
I do have an Excel sheet that's tracking a bunch of it, and it gets to the point where it's just not comfortable to use on a phone.
So my question is, how many apps have you tried already?
0.
So you have never tried a movie collections app?
No, because I have a weird problem, and I don't know whether it's personal or whether other movie guys would have this, but obviously I've purchased movies on like Google Play, like movies or whatever, and so I have them there. They're just sitting there, and I would love for those movies to be, you know, those are technically a part of my collection, but you're right, like the Plex is sort of like actually my collection. It's indicative of my Blu-rays and such. And so it's one of those questions where I don't know. I think what I'm wondering is it's like, how do I add that to my collection to be a part of my collection? It feels like it's like a satellite thing on the side. It feels like it's Netflix, even though they're not going to be taken away because I physically purchased them on Google Play Movies. It just doesn't feel like it's mine. And I don't know whether it's because the other ones I have the physical medium of, and these are just streamed, or like what it is. I don't know what it is, but there's something weird. There's something weird about it.
So why do you think it's weird to use an app? Like what in like how I'm seeing it, a basic movie collections app. You type in the movie that you own into the search. It queries the database of all the movies out there. Like what is it? The movie database, I think, is one of the biggest ones. The movie DB. It queries that as an API, and then it displays it, and then you just click add.
Yeah.
I could see it probably not knowing what type. Like it's not going to ask you like where do you own it. Maybe it does. Like I'm not sure. I've never used any of these. What I'm saying is like I think one of your differentiating factors is that you're adding the where do you own it feature.
Well, because the thing is like one of the major problems actually is the fact that so I have like how would I even say this, like it's almost like chat apps. There are literally times where I can't remember if I bought something and I have duplicates of a movie. And sometimes I've bought it on Google Play and then I go and buy it on buy a Blu-ray of it.
Yeah.
And it's because I just didn't think to look in Google Play. I just forgot that I bought it. It was on sale and I just forgot that I bought it. And then some of these deep Blu-rays in that give me a Google Play version. So I just like, it's like there's a collection everywhere. Like this is the major problem where it is everywhere. And that's the major issue, I think.
Mm-hmm. That's the major issue is you want to consolidate it so you know like you have both the digital version and the physical version. That's the problem is like you don't know which ones you have because you want to know. That's your thing. Like for me, like as a regular user, maybe not a collectioner, I don't really care. Like if I have the Blu-ray and it gives me a digital version, for me, I don't care which one I watch or which one I know I have or whatever. Like I'll forget about the Google Play version most likely. Like that's probably the case.
But the thing is though, is that version comes in handy. So there's been times where I'm like, oh, I'm going on like a trip this weekend and like I'm a night owl, so I don't sleep. So like if everyone's asleep and I'm still awake, it'd be great to have some movies with me. Now, whereas I love my Blu-ray collection and everything, it'd be really great if I could just know, like if I type into this app and it says, hey, you have the Blu-ray and the Google Play version. So it's like, oh, damn, okay. And then I'll just go to the Google Play and, you know, download it or whoever works, or if I have internet there, stream it. But then I know where it is. It's the same as chat apps to me because I have so many damn chat apps these days that I literally, sometimes when I'm like, oh, I'm going to message this person. Okay, give me a sec. Like, I can't remember which app I talked to them in.
Yeah. It's like a consolidation. Like for a chat app, it would be like one app that has all of them in there. Like there are apps that kind of pseudo do that, but they're not very good. Like I've tried many of them. Like they constantly log you out of all the different platforms and they usually launch the other apps.
Oh yeah.
And it's tough to search contacts between them. Like I haven't found one that can search contacts between all apps. It just kind of just shows you them all. I don't know. There hasn't been a good solution to that. So it's the same thing for movies. There isn't a good solution to show you where like all your movies are located. I agree. Okay, fair enough. So next question here is, how would you monetize? Like, what would it be like just, since it's a niche product, would you just be like, $10 for the app, yearly license, or would it be like a one-time, like would you just literally buy the app, or are you thinking affiliate advertisements, like with the whole Amazon integration? Like as soon as you said, show Amazon pricing, I thought, oh, you could affiliate that. You can make some money there. I don't know if that's legal or not. I'm pretty sure it is. I can see a lot of ways, but what are you thinking?
Honestly, I was thinking of two ways, and affiliate's a good idea because I didn't think of that. The first way I was thinking is literally just straight up ads. I'm always a fan of advertising. I'm always a fan of monetizing the free users. So the app would be available for free, and then that would be the case. I was also thinking of having a payment, whether it be monthly, which probably wouldn't be super successful, or a one-time thing to unlock additional feature set and probably remove the ads. And the additional feature set would be probably taking it from MVP to the full app, or something, or some sort of combination of those two, where it would give you, like, I don't know if some of those APIs, like some APIs cost money. So that maybe it would have to be 99 cents a month per user or something like that. Maybe that would be the case. But I do see the thing is I have the same problem with video games too. Is they give them away at such a frequency now. Obviously movies aren't really given away, but the giveaway movie really is like if you go to the store, buy the Blu-ray, and you get the Google Play version for free. That's sort of the giveaway. Like you went there to buy the Blu-ray, you didn't go there to buy the Google Play version. That's the giveaway. In games, they give away so many friggin' things, and then there's like Xbox, there's the PlayStation, there's Microsoft Store, there's Epic Play Store, there's Steam, and there's Twitch. Like Twitch has the games there too now. Like Twitch has a game launcher in the Twitch app. So it's like there's seriously times where I don't think I've ever actually accidentally purchased an app or a game I've already owned, but it'll happen. I know it's gonna happen because I just don't know. Like I've been into my Twitch app before and been like, what the hell's all this? Like just find a whole bunch of apps or a whole bunch of games that I just didn't know I had.
Yeah. So the big thing I see here is the barrier to entry for regular people is if they're not passionate about their collection, they're not going to go through the effort of entering every movie that they own, every copy that they own, et cetera, et cetera. So the ease of use that you have there, like the integration with Netflix, the integrations with Plex, the integrations with everything that you have, Amazon, being able to like automatically tag the movies that you have, that's good. And then the scanning, the barcode scanning, I think that'll help for regular users. Mm-hmm. Now, where I see this being effective is the big collectors, like the ones that really have massive collections and do need the management, like yourself or whatever. Like eventually you'll become probably like you're going to keep buying it. So you're going to have an outrageous amount of DVDs, Blu-rays, and digital copies. For them, like monetization aspect of this, I see it as a free trial. I don't know if it's a 30-day or I don't know if it's maybe a free trial like you were saying, like basic MVP features free trial. Maybe that's the better way to go. And then like a $10 or $15 upgrade to the premium version. Like a significant cost upgrade. Because if you have the features that you're saying and they're valuable to the collectors, I don't think that $15 is an issue for a collector. Right. To be able to use it. And that's a good amount of money to receive to be able to, manage your costs. That's how I see it. I don't know if ads is the way to go. I think affiliate with the Amazon linking and all that, I would still put that in there.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's scummy or not. You can.
Well, I don't think it's scummy if you say that. Like if you have a little, a little I or whatever disclaimer in that section when you go to look, you could just say like, these are affiliate links.
Yeah. And then I would potentially also do ticketing for movie theater movies as well, like, affiliate marketing with movie theater movies. So that's where I'm looking at it from. Like I can see there being potential in it. I also see a pretty big upfront effort.
Oh yeah.
And a kind of I don't know. So the problem is like I can't get like I wouldn't be able to give you a definite answer if we want to build it or not. Like, but if we had the time, like right now we don't have the time to build anything.
Definitely
I'm just
not.
saying like if it was a real pitch, I would be like, okay, should we build it or not? The next steps would be let's evaluate the market. Like how many apps exist? I would tell you to go and use like 3 or 4 different apps that are rated high on Google. and just try them out with the intention that you're going to use them as a collection app and see if they satisfy your needs, like, or are they garbage? And if they're garbage, even if there are 4 or 5 of them, doesn't matter because we can make something better. And I'd say that's a decent idea because I always like targeting a good niche because people in a niche will tend to be more favorable with, buying the product.
Oh yeah.
Rather than when you're targeting the general audience, they're not willing to pay money for minor convenience, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I do think that there is a barrier to entry because you're right. The everyday person that's just using, Netflix or whatever, they're probably just going to be browsing Netflix and stuff. And if you're a person, and like everyone has moments like these where you specifically want to watch a movie, but you just don't know where they are, you can Google or literally Bing it, and it'll show you, hey, this is available here. Hey, this is available here. And so like if you don't want to go through all your streaming services, you can obviously search your streaming services as well. But oftentimes it'll just tell you it's available from Microsoft here, it's available from Google Play here, it's available on Netflix right now, it's available here. And so you have that luxury already without installing an app and putting it in. I think you're right. I think it is the people that want the collection aspect of it. They want to have, like, they want to purchase and own, that DVD, that Blu-ray. They want to purchase and own that. They want to purchase and own something on, even like if they transfer. I think one of the bigger audiences maybe is people who bought DVDs and Blu-rays for years and years and years. Finally got good internet and they don't really care about the physical media themselves. They just like having all these movies, so they just go and they actually start purchasing digital copies. Like this app would connect the two. That's the biggest thing. Because like one of the problems I actually had was, and we've had so many conversations on ecosystems. One of the things is I was like, when I was starting this, I was like, hey, well, maybe I could just, when I want to buy a movie, I'll buy it all in the same service. And I'll just go and I'll build up my Google Play Movies collection, and that'll be my collection. The problem is that it's different prices across the board. It's different this, it's different that. Like I don't want to rely on the cloud all the time. Like I prefer to have the disc. I prefer to have the disc, I prefer to have the Blu-ray. It just feels nicer. I don't know what it is, but this app bridges the gap between I have the physical object that I own, but I have the convenience of digital there too. Mm-hmm. One of the biggest things I saw, I remember, been to like a few yard sales the year that Netflix came out, and people were selling DVDs and Blu-rays like you wouldn't believe. And it was like, well, the stuff's on Netflix. It's like, well, today. And they did not know that the stuff gets up, gets pulled down, gets moved, gets taken away temporarily, gets taken away forever, comes back, does all the rest of it. This is well before the days of Netflix originals, well before those days. And so this was just movies and TV. And they're like, well, we have Netflix now, so we just don't need these DVDs and that.
I was honestly one of those people. I think I didn't sell anything, but like I immediately lost interest in physical media as soon as stuff like Netflix came out. Because before, like, I don't know, I would pirate every once in a while, but I didn't really like it that much, the experience of it, because it was kind of finicky and viruses and all that. But as soon as Netflix came out and there's one price for like a million different things, that was the solution for me. And you're right, where I didn't think in the future where like what happens when they remove the movies that I want to watch, because I would have like a big watch list, and then all of a sudden the movie would be gone.
Oh yeah,
you know, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months later, a year later, 2 years later, whatever, which sucks. So, and then the worst thing that happened was all of a sudden there's like 15 different streaming services now.
Oh yeah,
all different offerings. Everyone's trying to buy different stuff for each other to be exclusive. So that's like worst case scenario for me. So that's where like physical media now makes more sense than ever before in my eyes. Like the new Ultra HD movies that are coming out, that's kind of interesting to me. Like maybe I'll start buying those, because when Blu-rays came out, I started buying those until Netflix kind of took over. So maybe I'll go back to that, because I don't like this different, like I'm not paying for 15 different streaming services. It's just not happening. I'm paying for Amazon Prime because I use their delivery. Like if they broke out the cost into a separate streaming service, done. I'm not paying for a separate streaming service.
It's got to be said that I wouldn't. I have Google, or I have Amazon Prime Video as an incident of.
Yeah, exactly. And I have Netflix. I'm not. Period. I'm not paying for anything else. If Netflix starts, shitting the bed, I'll remove Netflix and go to whatever else is dominating at that time. If there's anything dominating, I could see.
Are you a person that likes to browse, or because I do have a friend that will only buy the streaming service in which they want to watch something on. And so if they decide, hey, I want to watch Tiger King, they'll buy Netflix for that month, watch Tiger King. If they haven't finished it, they'll buy they'll buy another month of Netflix, and then they'll be like, oh, okay, I'm done watching Tiger King. Done with that. Okay, what's next?
I've done that before. Like I haven't done that with Netflix, but I've done that with like gaming services, like the Microsoft one. I've bought that.
Oh, yeah.
Then I unsubscribed. Then I bought it again to play a different game. Then I unsubscribed again. Same with Uplay. I did that with Uplay once. I don't remember what I was wanting to play. Maybe
you bought that Uplay streaming, or not streaming, but the
yeah, whatever. It was like $5 for all their entire collection for a month or something, and I just did that and played a game. But yeah, I've done that. I haven't done that with movies yet. I don't know if I will or not. I don't like managing a million subscriptions. Like I don't like that aspect of it, so I probably wouldn't if I didn't have to.
I have the unfortunate thing where I also have BritBox because I bought that as a gift to my parents for Christmas for a year, so I am also paying for BritBox as well. But they're using the crap out of it. Like it is on all the time. So
yeah, so that's good. So yeah, I mean to kind of cap it off, I think the app, I think for collectors, I think collectors are a really good audience. If there's actually a gap in this market, like if you actually go in, we do the research, we look at all the different apps, and we figure out that there is a gap and it's not enough, and people are still using Excel sheets, majority of people are still using Excel sheets, I think there's money to be made. And I think there's a reason to do this app. Maybe there's a reason just to do it out of like pure passion if you're an open source developer in general. If you want to just make an app that has everything, and go right ahead and do it. But I think there is an audience out there because collectors are they are willing to spend money. That's what I'm trying to say. So it's potentially a moneymaker. That's why it's interesting to me, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I think the aspect that it's covering digital and physical and variations of that, I think is really critical, because there's some people that would only collect the oddities. Like I have beside me a Hackers for the PSP. Like it's just something stupid I found. It was like, fuck, I'm buying this. It was like $2. But like that's just hilarious to me. I have like the DVD and everything of Hackers. So like but there's some people that would only collect little funny things like that, and then their collection is maybe 100 items, but they're collecting like they have 100 items, but like they're all oddities to them or to the industry, and so they would be the physical mediums guy. But then there's like I said, the guy that is like running out of space or just doesn't want to buy the physical stuff anymore, or is getting older and doesn't want to go to the store or wants the convenience or whatever it is, whatever the case is, and then they decide, I'm going to go to Google Play Video, but I want my collection to still be together. GOG Galaxy 2.0 is a prime example of sort of a collection app, if you will, for it's whoa about my microphone. It is across Xbox and PlayStation and a bunch of other things, your Steam and all that. Problem being, though, does not include any of your physical media. And so I have a bunch of games that are physical, and those obviously aren't included because my accounts only have the digital licenses. They're unaware of the physical licenses because that's verified when you put the disc in.
So a solution for that is to add them as a non-Steam game in Steam. And I believe GOG will pick it up.
That's interesting.
I believe it will.
Maybe I should try that then.
80 or 90% sure. So yeah, like I think there is a way around that, but it's kind of, I don't, maybe you can even add it in GOG. Like I know Steam for sure you can add a non-Steam game. Maybe GOG can actually do the same thing.
All I know for sure is that, it was months ago, I basically signed into all my services, looked around a little bit, and was like, okay, cool, and then didn't use it again. So I don't have an extensive knowledge of GOG too.
Yeah, I haven't used it very often either. I don't like, again, I'm not a collector, right? So it doesn't appeal to me fully to start managing, but I know that there's people out there that really like collecting and like to manage their libraries and all that and organize them the way they want to. Like, it's just a thing. Like, that thing exists. Like, that is a thing. And you do that with movies. Like, your Plex is a prime example, like, of you being pretty strict about your naming conventions, pretty strict about everything. Like, it has to be in line, it has to whatever. Like, you put a lot of effort into it. Something that I wouldn't do.
Do you know what I did the other day was, I'm a part of 2 podcasts, and so I now archive my podcasts on there too. And I had a glitch where episode 271, 272, and 273 were showing up at the end of 274 to 228X. I don't remember what the end was for that. But anyway, it kept showing up at the end, and I couldn't figure out what the hell was going on. And I kept checking the meta, and I was like, there's nothing in the meta. There's something going on. And what it was I guess, I presume, it was some sort of old Plex version. When I put my podcast episodes, which I did all the meta for, when I put my podcast episodes onto it, I guess that particular version couldn't take a blank disc number, and so it assigned disc 1 to it. All my other ones, I left them blank as well, but I presume that was a bug that was fixed in Plex, and as far as I can tell, Plex assigns the disc as -1, which means, like, that's blank, essentially, to anything that doesn't have a number. Because one of the 3 of the tracks had disc 1 in it, it made disc -1 surface and then show disc 1 after -1 because it thought that was the order. And I was trying to get it to do by track number, and the only reason why I saw that was because the Android version prominently displays the disc, but the desktop version does not. So then I had to go in, rip it out, redo the thing, delete the meta, go put them back in, and then it worked.
Yeah, like, that's a lot of effort. You know what I mean? Like, that's just, it's not an effort that everyone will put in, but it's that the people that are passionate about it will do it. So that's why it's an interesting idea. Other than that, do you have anything else to add on your topic, or do you want me to take over the next recommendation?
I think we've gone through it. To be honest, I think that's the movie collection manager, folks.
So mine's interesting because it's kind of related to yours. It could be a feature of yours even.
Wow.
Which is interesting. Yeah. Okay. So, problem statement. So, what's the problem? Why did I think of this? My friends from different groups and stuff like that constantly tell me to watch different shows, different TV shows. Like, you go watch The Good Place, go watch, like, BoJack Horseman, whatever. Like, they just constantly tell me to go watch shows.
The Good Place.
The Good Place. Yeah.
I know
it's a
what
show,
it is.
NBC show. Yeah.
I'm shaking my head in disapproval.
It's a pretty good show. I actually watched it. It's a good show. But regardless, people tell me to go watch shows. And the system that I have in my own head, and what I've started to write down a little bit now, is when someone asks me, I'll write it down, but I won't go watch it, usually, unless I'm already interested in it. But if someone were, like, from a different group or a different friend were to come and be like, oh, you should watch this show, then I'll put, like, a +1 beside it. Beside that same show that I wrote down. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then I'll put, like, and then again, like, someone else will come tell me, and then I'll put another, I'll put a +2. So that's 3 people ask me. That's enough for me to be like, okay, I should at least check this out. Like, that's not guaranteeing that I'm going to watch it, but I'll at least check it out. And so on. The tough thing is that it's tough to, like, because when you're on the go or whatever, like, it's tough to always manage all this. Like, you'd have to open up your Notepad app quickly and do whatever. So the proposal is recommendashow.io. Okay. It's an app where a user can create an account, and then whenever a friend wants to recommend them a show, they can just send them a link to their list, and the friend can either upvote an already recommended show or add a new one. Okay. And then the friends don't have to sign up for an account because that's a barrier to entry. It'll be session-based link that expires in an hour. So you send them the link, it expires in an hour, or you can set the expiration date however you want, expiration time on the links however you want in the settings. No one will probably touch that. It's going to be a simple user interface, grid style interface, just like a list in boxes, and then it'll flow over depending on screen size. You'll be able to sort the list by upvotes, by alphabetical, maybe other types of sorting mechanisms. I'm not really sure what else you'd need to sort a show by. And then the user can add his own shows. So if they've, had a bunch of shows that people have already suggested, they can add them themselves. And then all the friends would have to do is go in and upvote them. And then when a show is clicked on, a details light box opens up and displays more information about the show. And this kind of is like your idea, Matt, where it shows you where to watch it or buy it or whatever. And that's where an affiliate income could possibly come in. So that's my MVP. That's like base functionality. Future features would be, based on the shows in the list, a recommendation engine. So it would give you, like, if you have 10 shows that are in the list, then it'll give you shows like them. Like if you like a lot of sci-fi, it'll give you sci-fi shows, etc. Maybe more sophisticated than that. Maybe it'll be like based on the creator of the shows as well. I know for me, like, I'm really into anything that Greg Daniels makes. He's the creator of The Office and the Parks and Recreation. So anything that he makes, I'm definitely going to check out. So that's why I think the creator recommendation engine would be pretty good. The UI will eventually and hopefully fully integrate to something like Plex and other streaming services. So you can just click and go right to the streaming service, or maybe even go right to Plex from the UI, like integrate with them as a company to company. Like this would be a big integration and it would take forever. But if you're a big enough application, you can probably pull it off. And then advertising spots for newly released shows. So like if a new show like Space Force were to come out, and the audience for it because this person has been recommended The Office and Parks and Recreation and all that.
Movies related to type of thing.
Exactly, yeah, movies related to, shows related to, whatever. Exactly. Put that as an advertising spot for new shows. Sell that advertising spot, and then obviously expand out to movies. That would be an easy one. That would probably be like one of the first features, if not the. I don't know if I'd make it like a recommend a movie.io, like separate domain. Probably not, but. In like a tab inside this thing. That's basically the idea for the thing. It's really simple. It should be fairly simple to create. I'm just going to quickly go through the tech stack that I was thinking of doing, because that's kind of how I think through ideas. So front end for the web app, I would go with something that I'm familiar with, like Vue.js. Vue.js would be powered with Vuex for state management, Vue Router for changing routes, and Tailwind for the actual front end. The backend, I would just use like a Node.js Express installation, like a really simple one that would essentially communicate with an API and a database that would sync your content to your user account. So your user account would actually would be done with Firebase authentication. There's plugins for Node.js for that. It's the easiest one. I don't have to store the user data, secure the user data. I don't want to deal with that. So I'll use Firebase to do that. But what I'll do is, based on the user ID, I will create a session or like an element in my own Mongo database that will store all your settings and your movies and stuff like that. So I'll store the actual information, but the user accounts will be stored by Firebase authentication. The API would use the movie database or whatever other APIs out there that's cheap and free or whatever. Mm-hmm. Deployment. Netlify for the front end, DigitalOcean for the back end. Netlify is free up until a certain point, so that's why I would use that. It gets a little bit pricey when you start scaling.
But at that point, you're monetizing, hopefully. So
that's kind of like the thought process that I have. And secondly, like I can easily pull it from Netlify if I have to, once I do scale, and put it on anything else that I want to. And DigitalOcean is just cheap backend, like $5 a month would probably be enough. I don't really have to store too many images, so maybe I will have a $5 a month like image storage for commonly used API TV show covers. And then testing environment, I would just use like a local Vue.js server and Docker for the backend to replicate the backend environment that I would have in DigitalOcean, just to make it easier to deploy and test. But that's about it. Like, again, simple application, solves kind of one issue that I personally have. Don't know how long it would take to make. It would probably be somewhere in the realm of like 2 weeks to a month for the MVP.
That's not. I was going to say 3 weeks for the MVP. So yeah, we're in the same ballpark that way.
Yeah,
I feel like that's one thing. Having pitched projects back and forth to each other, that's one thing that we're usually in the ballpark of within each other. I remember it used to be pretty random. Like sometimes you'd be way out base, sometimes I'd be way out pace. But now we always seem to be like, yeah, a month, 3 weeks, whatever. Like we're always within the same ballpark. I find with that type of thing. Same with pricing too. I'm pricing a client project. So that's one little thing that the listener could take away is like as you keep proposing these projects and whatever to each other as a team or an individual, in this case, in partners, you'll slowly sync up your the critical pieces of your proposals.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm going to mention stuff that is going to be interesting to Matt, obviously, when I'm proposing to Matt. And it's going to be a realistic proposal too. Like when we propose, we're not expecting the other person to be super excited about the project. We're expecting them to actually take it apart as much as we possibly can, because we want to make, like, if we have two people, we want to make sure that we're both fully on board. If we ever do a project, that's our big thing, is like, we both have to be excited about it and fully on board with it. Otherwise it's not going to work. We've tried it before, where we had like one person half on board, the other person like not really on. Like it's that,
one person half on board, and the other person not on board at all.
Like,
so it's just
true.
like it's a total farce. Like it's a total disaster.
Total disaster. Don't do that. So be honest with the other person and try to poke holes in it as much as possible, because there are going to be holes, like 100%. Like I personally, like if I was poking holes in this thing, I haven't checked for a competitor. Maybe there is like a massive competitor that I don't know about. But regardless, I just literally thought of this idea, and this is what I would do I would bring Matt on a call, and I would tell him, just like I told you right now, maybe this was a little bit more structured, and it's probably a good thing. It was a quick, concise statement. I usually blabber about other stuff. But yeah, that's it.
Well, one thing, the very first thing I thought of when you brought this idea is like, I like the idea. And what the very first sort of UX thing I thought of was, this is very much a social thing. And so I thought, and this would be a little bit of barrier to entry, like with the accounts, but I think that it would be awesome to add people to an entry. So for example, if let's say it's you, Jeff, and myself, let's just say, well, we all know a man named Jeff. There you go. Spoiler alert. So let's say Jeff watches Tiger King, loves it, and really wants you to watch it. Now, let's say we're all, in this app, and we're all in a friend group of some sort, whatever that is, on the contact list or whatever you want to call it. And he suggests that to you. He can actually add that to either a group where he thinks like, hey, this group of people like would like this, or he can say like, I suggest this to Mike. I also suggest this to Matt. Because Matt and Mike know each other, the app would acknowledge, hey, look, Mike also whatever. Like Mike also saw this. But what I was thinking of is the social aspect goes a little further. What I thought would be awesome would be you and I can check off when we've watched it.
Yep. And
can comment on it specifically, but we can also do a spoiler filter like you would see. What that does is, like, let's say you say like the end of Tiger King, there were space tigers, total fake, But let's just say that's a big spoiler, right? Space tigers fucking flying around. What the hell's going on out there? You tag that as a spoiler. Now I see you've commented on it to myself and Jeff, and I go, I want to see what the hell he said, because I want to know, because I know you. It's not just some random movie critic and not some random person on Reddit. I want to know. So now I have a bit of motivation to go see it. Another thing is like if you have a big group of people, like eight friends all together, and they do, and you pitch this to them, you say, hey guys, all watch this. It's almost like peer pressure, but like, you know how like all of us have like a block to, like, how often do we go and watch a new movie versus how often do we go and rewatch something? Rewatching is so much easier than getting into something new, especially if it's a show. But if everyone's getting into it, then it's a lot easier. Tiger King, prime example.
So that's really interesting, because what I've noticed is with Netflix and binging, it's been really hard to kind of watch shows with people.
Yep.
Because before, when it was weekly releases, you would watch the episode, like if The Office came out or Game of Thrones came out, whatever, you would go and talk to your friends about it. Mm-hmm. And you'd have a whole week to kind of digest, and it wouldn't be a problem with spoilers because everyone would have watched it by then for a whole week. But now everyone's watching it at their own pace, so you never have that opportunity to comment or see other people's comments. So I could see that being a pretty big feature. And yeah, I like, my big thing with this app, if I were to create it, would be lowest barrier to entry possible. So that session-based link, right? If like just to get people started. But then as you're in the application, I would definitely be prompting people to sign up with certain prompts. Like I'd be like, hey, if you sign up, you can, do those things, like
watch list.
comment comment and see what their progress. Because if we're integrating with Plex, Netflix, and all that, maybe we can eventually see a progress indicator automatically show up.
Now here's a crazy. You just gave me another idea. Here's a crazy idea. What if you use this app as a watch list in general? So I go in and let's just say I start cataloging today. Obviously, not going to catalog everything I've ever watched. So I start cataloging today. So I have recently started watching Money Heist. Watched the first four or five episodes of that. Let's say you're going in to Netflix, like you're saying, and it's like Netflix itself has a barrier to entry because you're browsing around. There's so much to watch. You don't know what to watch. Usually go back and watch something you've watched, like The Office, Trailer Park Boys, or something, because it's easier, right? Mm-hmm. But you might go in and say, like, man, I don't know what to watch. You might go into your friends list and maybe filter by Netflix and see that recently I've watched Money Heist. So you might actually comment or even just, text me saying, hey, I saw you watch Money Heist and, I like a bunch of the movies that you like. What do you think about it? And then I can talk to you about it. And you also know that I'm on episode 3 or 4 or whatever it is. And so if you blow by me, like you're saying, this binging, if you blow by me, good manners dictates you're not going to spoil anything on me. So you could use that spoiler tag thing, or at the very least know, oh, he's only on, season 1, episode 3 still.
You know what I'm really surprised about? Why hasn't Netflix just, done this feature?
I think it actually comes down to, we were talking about this on my other podcast. Not the Netflix thing, but specifically jumping genres or jumping core business model. A prime example is EB Games. EB Games is like a struggling retail video game chain. Why the hell don't they buy cdkeys.com, g2a.com, and Green Man Gaming? They sell to the person that's basically kicking them out of the market, which is Steam. They sell Steam keys and those type of things. Buy those damn things and start selling. But for some reason, they have these new, illusions. I don't want to call them illusions of grandeur because they might work, but they're like hanging on to this retail space. Then now they have gaming lounges and stuff, and that might work. Whatever. Who knows? However that works. But why don't companies? And I see this all the time. I don't want to just keep beating on EB Games. Why don't companies do a jump? Case in point, actually, BlackBerry sells freaking trucking software. They made the jump. They're like, damn, this phone stuff ain't working out for us. All right. And they go and they're making trucking software.
Yeah. People are afraid. Companies are afraid to make those jumps. Biggest thing is Blockbuster, right? They had the opportunity to make that jump.
Damn it. Damn it.
What was it, $100 million or something?
It was something really small in comparison to what
it's worth. It was something really, really small at the time by Netflix. But
the thing is, though, is they could have blew it, though.
100%.
Because they would probably still be focused on the retail, and they would probably try to do something like rent it in store, and then we'd give you a voucher to watch one movie on our Netflix service.
Yeah, it would be really dumb. It would be a really dumb implementation. Or they could have seen the future of it and slowly phased out their stores.
Or actually, hypothetically, they could have kept the stores and killed streaming. Hypothetically.
They could have done that too. That would have been fine too.
Yeah.
But someone else would have came up and did it. You know what I mean? I'm sure it would have taken maybe longer, but that's it. Netflix wasn't exactly the most a pioneer of technology at the time. They were sending out DVDs
I forgot about that. Yeah, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, exactly. So it wasn't exactly the same as they were now. They were just starting the streaming service at the time, I think, as a concept more than anything. So it wasn't the same. But regardless, it's just the other thing is with this app, I don't know if I'd want to create too complex of an ecosystem. Mm-hmm. As well. I do like the social aspect of it. I think you're right. It is a social application. It does get there. I don't know if I'd want to make it like a collection manager.
I agree with you there. I agree.
Yeah, I think that would be my line. Is I don't want a wish list. Maybe like I said, you can add your own movies and TV shows. I mean, you can add your own TV shows to the list. But at what point does it become a manager? I don't want to get there. I'd rather it be a collective experience of You're right. I have a few WhatsApp groups that we all talk about movies and sometimes new shows that come out. And it would be awesome if we were all in the same recommend a show.io group.
Yeah.
And then they could literally just go through there and recommend shows and then put all their spoiler stuff in there, because a lot of times stuff gets spoiled or we don't want to talk about certain things. If they put their spoiler stuff on the actual show with a spoiler tag, then as I watch it, I can open up that conversation and add to it whenever I get to it. So it doesn't have to be an immediate reaction. So I do kind of like that. I don't know if people would use it. My biggest concern are there already competitors out there? And if this takes off, why doesn't Netflix or Amazon Prime just build it into their systems? Now, the rebuttal to that would be this kind of goes over all platforms, so it's easier for people, especially if it does take off. But
and it doesn't matter what they watched it on. If they have an old VHS even and they watch it, I mean, they've watched it and they can put it into their watch list. I kind of envision this as being it's almost like a social media network, but it's just solely for your friends and it's solely for movies and TV show. Like, it's solely dedicated to that. Even like you could add other digital media in there, like a podcast. If someone says like, you really need to listen to S-Town. Games. Yeah, games is a good one too. Like anything that a person tries to get you to do on a normal basis. Like, you got to check out this YouTube channel or, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I like that idea.
Games would be an interesting one too, though, because different friend groups play different games at different times. Let's say you're part of a bunch of different groups, you can see like what they're playing in real time almost. So if you have people playing Minecraft at that current time, people would be like, "This is what I'm playing. This is what I suggest you play."
Oh, and
that could get groups together for gaming a lot better.
Well, actually, when you're saying that, you could do. I mean, once we're all out of the house. You could do the same thing for movies. If you put on your watch list, if you put Pulp Fiction, I'll keep using that. You put Pulp Fiction on your watch list. I put Pulp Fiction on my watch list. Jeff puts Pulp Fiction on his watch list. The app might say like, "Hey, you guys should plan a movie night. You all want to watch Pulp Fiction."
Yep.
Because if you notice, and you were mentioning group chats are a conglomerate of everything, and like, for example, planning in a group chat is an absolute disaster. And I don't mean just like planning watching sessions. I mean planning anything.
Yeah.
But also the same logistical issues happens to when someone makes a suggestion. Because someone might be totally not interested. Maybe there's a 6-person group chat and this person meant it for 4 of the people. And so now there's like this big hole, you know what I mean? Where like one person just doesn't care and then he just starts chatting about the regular thing. And then that other person's suggestions and everything else gets buried. Whereas this, do you know what this is actually kind of like? It's close, but it's close but far, but it's probably the closest that ever came to market. Google Spaces.
Yeah, a little bit. I agree.
I remember Ryan, the host of my other podcast, was super into Spaces. Like, he was like I don't want to talk about Star Wars anywhere else but in here and stuff like that. Maybe not that formal, but he would try to get people to do it. And I was one of those jerks. I was like, I'm not freaking using another app.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that, like, the problem with Spaces is it's so general. It just sounds like another Google Plus or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it sounded so general that
the problem with it was that it was basically like a form manager. Like, you basically chose you named your space whatever the heck you wanted. So you could literally name it like bananas and Samsung phones, like literally.
Yeah, exactly.
And then and then you could talk about anything. It wasn't specific, like a Facebook group. If you make it specific, there's moderators and stuff that keep things in track. And Spaces, there's no like moderators. And so I could go into the bananas and Samsung group and start talking about like this plate that's in front of me. I like, there's no limit. And so that was always my complaint, was that it felt so unofficial, because it kind of was unofficial.
For sure. And with this app, I would see it. I wouldn't put like an open forum in each group. You know what I mean? Like, because like WhatsApp and all the other apps already handle that. They're great for group chatting. I don't want to solve group chatting. I want to make it specific and very deliberate. So if you want to talk about a specific show and a specific episode about a show, you go to that episode and you talk about it.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all. Like, and you can put your comments there or whatever, so that you can, again, avoid spoilers and be very deliberate in your conversations. Because no one's going to go to this app to chat. Like, I don't want that.
No, like, maybe the comments. Like, I like the idea of just having the comment where I just go like, I don't know, I mean, this is a cliche if anything, but like the twist in this episode's crazy, and I mark that as a spoiler. I like that as being sort of like the breadcrumb to get you to catch up. Like if you're an episode or two behind, you're like, damn, what the hell did he say? And then you go through, but not like you're right, not like an active back forth.
Yeah. But yeah, so this, if we had the time to do something like this could be a potential thing that we would do. We would vet pretty significantly, obviously, any competitors if they are out there. I haven't heard of one, but there might be. And then we would probably nail down our tech stack a little bit more, get our designs going. Like you would be in charge of the designs.
Mm-hmm. And then the UX, like probably me too.
Yeah, you would be in charge of the UX completely. Yeah, that's how we would go about it. But eventually, like this would be just, the first session that we're having right now would just be kind of like plant the idea in your head.
Yeah. In
my head, think about it for a week, like, have a cool down period. Think about all the issues that could potentially be there. We'll think about all the potential good things that we could add to it, or like change the MVP, whatever.
Or in this case, what is actually a good thing is we've had quite a few ideas like this where you even say like, this is an add-on to your idea. This was just a fluke that this happened because I didn't even know what your idea was. But there have been things where you're like, hey, you know what? I've actually been thinking about something similar, and we could tack it onto your idea. That's happened several times in the past, and vice versa as well.
Exactly. So that's how these go. I don't know. There's not much more to say. We don't dive too deep in the initial conversations because again, there's no point. Mm-hmm. There's no point. It should be very high level. It should be at a very easy discussion, any potential issues right away out there, and then just think about it.
And to the listener out there too, this went rather smooth, like really smooth. This is how it normally goes for us now, but it absolutely did not go this way for the first couple of years. So I want to make that clear, is that Mike and I are we are literally practiced in talking to each other about pitching ideas. And I know, because I've like worked with Mike for a while, and vice versa, that we know what questions each other are going to ask. So in my own idea making, if I'm going to talk to Mike about an idea, assuming it wasn't just on the spot, I'll actually come up with the answer to those questions because I know he's going to ask those, and I'm sure he does the same thing for me as well. We know how that works, and we just know how how each other think to an extent, especially when it comes to proposals like this. So if you go to talk to somebody and you're like, damn, it wasn't as smooth as that. And obviously, this was not scripted, so it's not like the smoothest Oscar award-winning, talk about a movie app. But like, I mean, that was, I didn't realize that's kind of not a pun, but that's kind of related. Damn it. Anyway, but you get what I'm saying, is like, you need to be practiced at doing this. So pitch ideas, like write them down, and like I write them down, and I mean, to be trendy, I write them down in Samsung Notes with my friggin' S Pen. But that's what I do, and then I like bring them up to Mike, and that's the way it goes. So, but yeah, I think we'll move on to the web news, which is, I guess, the more traditional part of the show this week. I
actually
lost my paper.
Matt, I actually have to take off.
Oh, I guess it has already been like an hour. So.
Yeah, it's been over an hour. But my recommendation, maybe this week we do a separate web news episode
as a tidbit,
because we do have as a tidbit.
Okay, yeah.
Because we do have a good web news, and I do want to talk about it. I don't know if you want to preview it or not. Or
yeah, I'll give you a little. I'll give you a little. Actually, it's based. The idea came from an episode, and I'll continue listening to the episode. So I'll just do a real brief explanation, and then. So the web news this week is peer-to-peer versus centralized, and I'm listening to a podcast, a Joe Rogan podcast. I've not completed it, and as of writing this web news, I did not complete it, but I'll probably complete the episode tonight. I believe it's with a person named Bill Ottman, the person who made the Minds social network. And he had some ideas. I'm not getting into how Minds works and stuff. Just some ideas on how cloud computing is and should be. Just some, whatever. So it's just inspired. I want to be clear. It's just inspired by some of the things that he said. And then I put my own things in here and that type of thing. It just got me thinking about this generalized topic. So peer-to-peer versus centralized. That's the little thing. And it'll probably be a tidbit either before the next episode, whatever. I don't even know what this is. This is 92. So before episode 93, there'll be a tidbit that does this peer-to-peer versus centralized. But
sounds good.
I'm going to run the old conclusion here now. So thank you for listening, and make sure you don't miss an episode by subscribing on the platform of your choice. You can follow us on the socials via @HTML All the Things. That's on Facebook and Instagram. You can also follow us on Twitter via @HTML Everything. We're on Medium and we're on GitHub. And remember, we're also on Patreon. That's patreon.com/HTML all the things. Check out the tiers and give that a go. And many thanks to our $3 tier patrons. Sean from Rabbitworks JavaScript. Find him at youtube.com/rabbitworksjavascript. Garrick from Local Path Computing and Web Design. Find him at localpathcomputing.com. Craig, a.k.a. Cosworth. Ryan Gatchell from Blue Black Digital. Find him at blueblackdigital.com. Chris from Selfmade Web Designer. Find him at selfmadewebdesigner.com. Tim from The Web Hacker. Find him at thewebhacker.com. And DL Ford from dlford.io. Feel free to leave a comment or a review on the platform you're listening to this on, and we are signing off.